Doing a bad job.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Festus City Council to order. Roll call, please.
Councilman Boyer.
Here.
Councilman Underwood.
Here.
Councilman Wilkie.
Here.
Councilman Weiner.
Here.
Councilman Dennis.
Here.
Councilman Benz.
Here.
Councilman Cook.
Here.
Councilman Tennant.
Here. We do have a quorum. Pledge of allegiance, please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now we would like to swear in Councilman-elect Gary Underwood and Councilman-elect Jim Tennant.
Right in front of the table there. They can see you. Or go around. Yep. Raise your right hand. Yes, please. I state your name.
I, Gary Underwood,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I possess
that I possess
all the qualifications
all the qualifications
for the office of councilman
for the office of councilman
as prescribed by law.
as prescribed by law,
I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United
of
States
the United States
and of the state of Missouri,
and of the state of Missouri,
the provisions of all laws
the provisions of all laws
of this state
of the state,
affecting cities of this class,
affecting the cities of this class,
and the ordinances of
and the ordinance of
the city of Festus, Missouri,
the city of Festus, Missouri,
and faithfully demean myself
and faithfully demean myself
in office,
in office,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Tonight's bills, however, are $604,943.69.
So moved.
Motion's been made to
Second.
approve the consent agenda, and it's been seconded.
I have one question, please.
Yes, go
I have
ahead.
one question. Yes, on the, on page 13, there are MIRMA assessments, Greg. MIRMA 21 assessments, net of credits, with some pretty big numbers on there. Can you explain those to me, please?
Certainly. Every year when we do our renewal with MIRMA, that's for our general liability, and also for basically our general liability insurance. We also receive credits for essentially good years, where it is a reduction in the total premium. So the total cost of the liability insurance through MIRMA is broken down by department, which is why you see the line items as you do. But this year was not a bad year, it was a good year as far as the renewal perspective is concerned. We did receive some substantial credits in the renewal of our general liability insurance.
Very good, sir. And just one more comment. I noticed that we had purchased some items from, pardon me, Pedro's Planet, which I believe is associated locally with Metro Office Supply down on Main Street. And there were quite a few purchases from Staples on page 18. So to stay consistent with my former policy, if we can buy locally, I would prefer that. You know, if we can do it competitively. So I just would like to point that out. And that's all I have, sir.
All righty, thank you. We've had a motion, and it's been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
That's a roll call.
Aye.
I'm sorry, we'll do it by roll call.
Councilman Tennant.
Yes.
Councilman Cook,
Yes.
Councilman Benz,
Yes.
Councilman Dennis,
Yes.
Councilman Weiner,
Yes.
Councilman Wilkie,
Yes.
Councilman Underwood,
Yes.
Councilman Boyer.
Yes.
Motion carries. Remarks of visitors.
We did not receive any.
We did not receive any remarks of visitors. Bids. Public Works.
Yeah, before Matt left, we went through the process of soliciting bids for a tandem axle dump truck and bed. It's a package deal. It's on state pricing from MoDOT. So Truck Centers is a MoDOT vendor. They came in at the low bid of $143,356, which is below the amount we budgeted of $150.
Any discussion? I'll entertain a motion to approve the purchase of a dump truck from Truck Centers for $143,356.
So moved.
Motion's been made
Second.
and seconded. Roll call, please.
Who was that second?
Mike. Mike. Or it over there.
Oh,
Whoever.
Councilman Boyer,
Yes.
Councilman Underwood,
Yes.
Councilman Wilkie,
Yes.
Councilman Weiner,
Yes.
Councilman Dennis,
Yes.
Councilman Benz,
Yes.
Councilman Cook,
Yes.
Councilman Tennant.
Yes.
Motion carries. Tonight, we have bill number 4583 on the agenda. Would the clerk please read the bill?
Bill number 4583, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Festus, Missouri, approving the plat of Festus Steak and Shake subdivision plat and establishing an effective date.
As you recall, a few months ago, we received a subdivision plat for this same property, which also involved a lot consolidation. That plat was never recorded. The developer, after the fact, decided that for the time being, they'd like to leave the two lots separate. It's two commercial lots, viable commercial lots. The one that the restaurant currently sits on, the lot directly behind it. So essentially, it's like the last one never happened since it was never recorded. This ordinance would take its place with the recording of the subdivision plat.
So will anything happen with it? Like
The
retail going in there or?
there is been some discussion that I wouldn't be able to give you details on at this time, but happy to speak to you or anyone on council about that in private.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules and read Bill 4583 for the second time in title only?
So moved.
Motion's been made.
Second.
And seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Madam Clerk, would you please read Bill 4583 for the second time?
Bill number 4583, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Festus, Missouri, approving the plat of Festus Steak and Shake subdivision plat and establishing an effective date. Councilman Tennant,
Yes.
Councilman Cook,
Yes.
Councilman Benz,
Yes.
Councilman Dennis,
Yes.
Councilman Weiner,
Yes.
Councilman Wilkie,
Yes.
Councilman Underwood,
Yes.
Councilman Boyer.
Yes.
Bill 4583 has passed. New business.
None. I do have some items that I can add to my report. I can do that now, or I can do that at the report section if you like.
At the report section will be fine. Old business,
None.
reports.
Yeah, before we get to the councilman comments, I wanted to follow up on a few things that happened and didn't make it into my report. And one, some excellent news. We received approval for phase 2 of our West Main STP project this week. There is a meeting of East West Gateway in August that will determine the scope, which is essentially determine the year that it would fall into. If you recall, 5th Street, 3rd Street, Mill Street, West Main Phase 1, and now West Main Phase 2 have all been approved to receive federal funding on an 80-20 split. So that's exciting news. Along that same line, 5th Street, we will be opening bids for that tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock. Because of the number of bidders that have requested plans, there's an excess of 15 of them. We'll probably have to hold the bid opening in the front parking lot because the room here, obviously, we have a capacity limit here of 17. Myself and Mike Spalding from Cochran Engineering will be conducting that bid open, but we're excited that we have a large number of bidders that are interested in that 5th Street project, and hopefully we can get concurrence out of MoDOT and get rolling on that one real soon. So good progress there. I wanted to provide you, oh, go ahead, Bobby.
On the 5th Street, what do you want to do special that everybody's so excited to bid? Are we,
I'm sorry, what's
different about the 5th Street that everybody wants to bid this 5th Street or what?
There's been a lot of interest in the project. I think contractors are looking for work. Obviously, these federal and MoDOT projects are huge, you know, because they know they're going to get paid. Mike Spalding with Cochran told me they did an opening in DeSoto earlier this week, and they had an incredible turnout from contractors. So,
Okay. So other than that, that's just. Okay.
yeah, I think it's positive that we're looking at having hopefully some good bids that'll come in on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Greg?
Yeah.
On that same thing, the railroad's gonna be redoing that bridge down there. Is that gonna have any bearing?
No.
Okay.
No. And I'll caution, I know this is a big project for the city, certainly for the mayor. That project's still at just 90% design from BNSF, so we're still a little ways out, and the railroad kind of works when it wants to work.
That right.
You know, I told the ladies in the office the joke today, you know what the railroad told God, don't you? Which is, we were here first. So when they get around to doing it, they'll do it. But the 5th Street project, this is the 5th Street from Cromwell to the school.
Gotcha.
And not the 5th Street, Hillsborough area, the other 5th Street, so to speak. Any other questions on that? I wanted to give you an update on some of the positions that we have as far as the hiring process. We have listed our parks position internally. We've had 5 candidates express interest in that position. And I have had a meeting last Friday with a select committee from the park board. So Tim Wade, Bob Swires, Jim Richardson, and also Charlie Casey will be part of a selection panel, and we will be conducting interviews for that position on Monday afternoon. So we'll do that next week. Related to our building and public works director position, I look to get that listed as soon as we finish the parks position, which will be sometime early next week. There's been plenty of inquiries about it, and I think if the interest in the position has anything to say about the candidates that we may get, I think we're going to have some good people to pick from. So I wanted to kind of give you an overview on where we are as far as that goes.
Do you think on the parks position, do you anticipate having that wrapped up next week and kind of having an idea?
Yes. Yeah, I would expect that we would finish the interviews,
Yeah.
and unless the park board members want some time to think about it,
Yeah.
that we would perhaps we would meet after the interviews Monday afternoon and try to pin somebody down.
Do you prefer sending an email out to council with a possible salary range, or do you prefer us to come in and swing by and talk to you?
It's a posted salary range. I don't have it in front of me. I can get it to you immediately after the meeting. Any of you that would like to see it.
You can email.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. And one other thing, we discussed this, and I think it was probably encouraged by by the process we've been going through since March, with different dates and times. And I know some of the councilmen have brought this up, that the idea of maybe discussing a different date or time for our monthly meetings. I know for some, 5 o'clock, Jim, totally doesn't work. I know for others who maybe have obligations on Wednesdays, whether it be a civic, fraternal, or church organization. I wanted to say that, you know, Brian Malone, our city attorney, you know, basically we were able to kind of clean up the language on our existing ordinances to make sure that it reflected what we're doing now, which is a Wednesday at 7 on the second and fourth Wednesdays of the month. But if we want to change that, we can. So I don't necessarily, we don't have to talk about it now, but if we can think about it now, I just wanted to throw that out there as an option. With the full council here, our re-electeds and newly electeds now seated, it's not a bad time to talk about it. Or just think about it.
I've always liked Mondays, but other than that, I mean, I thought Mondays was always a better night to do it on. Then it would always make the paper, and it would always be out, every Thursday, people would see it instead of the following Thursday.
Right.
So, I mean,
But you kind of rock the boat already.
I'm sorry. But I mean, it doesn't make me a difference, because my schedule's open, so.
Monday don't sound bad, but we can discuss it.
Yeah, and I mean, I know we have, what, was it 2 or 3 holidays that we always will have to do?
We'll have to move.
Memorials and Labor Day, but like anything else, we change schedules for Thanksgiving and Christmas, so I mean, what's the difference? I mean, you'd really be able to open December up if you did move it to Monday, because of the fact, you know, you could,
Get away from Christmas. And, well, and you get away from Thanksgiving too.
right, so I mean, it would, there's a lot of people take off Thanksgiving week, so yeah, it does open it up more, so, but. You know,
Are we steadfast in the time at 7? I mean,
No, that's it. I mean, if you wanted it 2 in the afternoon, it's council's pleasure.
I mean,
But,
6 o'clock would be
I was thinking
sometimes.
more in line at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock is nicer, so if you're not so late.
Jim has difficulty with 5, I don't know. if-
You got ball games and things like that, you gotta attend.
You could do 6, yeah?
It's just really tough.
Yeah. So would we want to entertain the idea of, and for those in our Zoom audience, Kevin, Brian, Kyle, if you have a preference that maybe works for you better, you know, I can.
No, I don't.
Okay.
You know, I kind of prefer Mondays, I prefer Wednesdays for myself, but if everybody wants to go with Mondays, I can certainly do that.
I think we have to look at time slot also.
Sure.
Even if we do it on
We
Wednesday.
change our public comment section, so how would that affect when people want to put a question in if we go to Mondays?
We would just, it would obviously just back up the corresponding number of days. So for someone that wanted to speak to an on-agenda topic, they would need to submit by 4 o'clock on Monday. Actually, 3 o'clock if we move back to 6. And then the Friday deadline would move back 2 days to the corresponding previous Wednesday before. So that's an easy enough adjustment. It's really, like I said, council's pleasure.
Is the second and fourth still good, like second week, fourth week, or are you talking some other time?
No, I think second and fourth week is certainly, works well. That's typically when most cities will have their meetings, is on the second and fourth weeks of the month. A lot of them stay away from the first week of the month, and you want to stay away from the last.
Yeah.
Because you obviously have a lot of accounts processing that you've got to take care of at the end of the month.
I have one question.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Does Wednesday interfere with members of the council as they need to go to different places as it is right now?
The Elks has their meetings on Wednesdays, and I haven't been able to attend any of those. Some of them have been important.
The VFW meets on Wednesdays.
Okay.
And I don't know, it just seems like meeting in the middle of the week, if you could do it on Monday, it just seems like you wouldn't, you could freeze your whole week up, you ain't gonna worry about a meeting during the middle of the week. I mean, it just.
We got ball games and everything else, kids games and all that.
Well, I'm gonna poll the council.
Okay.
Mike Cook,
I'm open. Yeah. I'm a yay, if you want to change.
Monday at 6.
Yes, sir.
Monday at
Dave?
6.
Monday at 6.
Monday at 6 is fine. Kevin,
Monday at 6 is fine with me if everybody wants.
Brian,
Monday at 6 is fine.
okay.
Hey,
Well,
Kyle.
Kyle, I'm sorry, Kyle, go ahead.
Monday at 6 works for me as well.
Okay,
I will prepare an ordinance to change the time. We'll have that for so we'll meet at the regular date and time on our July, it would be July 8th, I believe. And then the following meeting would be at the new date and time. And then we would also amend our, just our request to speak, so that we would also move those dates and times corresponding. Okay with that.
any other discussion about that?
No, nothing about that, sir. And I did just want to make comment. This is the first meeting that we've actually been able to have staff here. We've lost a few since March, but we're working on that. But I did ask Elizabeth here if you did have any questions about library operations. They will be opening to the public next Monday, as we had discussed. They've got a nice program that will continue the curbside, if you just wanted to touch on that real quick.
Sure. Starting the first Monday in June, we started offering curbside service. So patrons can put holds on things either online or they can call us and we pull them for them. We spend the morning preparing those, and then our curbside hours have been Monday through Thursday from 12:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. and Fridays from 12:30 to 4. And people have really responded to it. We've been able to get things in and out, which has really helped our circulation numbers, which is always good. So once we open our doors on Monday, we'll be only open to the public from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. But we will be continuing to offer curbside service in the evenings for those who are not comfortable with actually coming into the building just yet. So I'm hoping this way we can kind of, please those that want to come inside and browse, and also those who are not comfortable with actually coming in just yet.
Fire Chief, did you want to make any comments?
No, sir, I have none at this time.
Chief?
No, sir.
Okay. Councilman Boyer?
Yes, sir. Been receiving phone calls on fireworks, as usual for this time of year. I didn't think they were supposed to start selling until the 25th, and they're already selling like out at Walmart. They're opened up out there at that stand.
10 days before.
The 20th is when it starts.
20th? Okay, I thought it was the 25th. And then they're only supposed to shoot on the 4th? In New Year's, right? So I know that can be trying for the police department to try to run all that down.
Yes.
Also, getting reports from some people about, see my cars are really speeding and running stop signs and stuff, so I told them, I said, I'll bring it up, you might want
We, today, start authorizing traffic details starting today.
to, okay.
And the reason they're down, we went to COVID, we went strictly COVID.
Sure.
We're trying to minimize the contact. Knock on wood, we've only had one exposure that we know of, and that's currently going on right now. And that person's been isolated for the next 14 days. But as of today, we started back up on the traffic details.
Okay,
So
good.
if you have a certain location where they're doing it, I'll send them out there.
This gentleman said, he said he had seen something like even on the main drag, Main Street through West Main.
Okay.
Disposal area for where our dumpsters are at. A guy asked me about this. He said they close at 3. I said, no, they close at 3:30 during the week. He said, how come they can't open on a Saturday? So, where our dumpsters are, so they can dump limbs and brush and stuff like that. So, I told him I don't know. I said, I'll ask about it and see.
It would require personnel. It would be overtime. come in and open it. We try to monitor it. It's convenient that it's close to the shop there, that we're able to kind of keep an eye on it, but it would require some additional hours for an employee to do that.
Yeah. I told him I'd bring it up, find out what the answer is, and I can get back with him. Yeah. Thank you. That's all I have,
Is
sir.
that it? Councilman Underwood?
Don't have a whole lot to represent to most of the people here, and be thankful for those that give a thought for me while I've been off. I do appreciate it, but I'm back here now. And I will, Mr. Boyer there, I agree on a lot of some of the things that he said that maybe we should look at and see if we can help the situation out. And I'm thankful. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Wilkie?
I have nothing, sir.
Councilman Weiner?
Just a few things. I'm really happy to see that 5th Street is going to be opening up soon, because with 3rd Street and 5th Street, I think that's going to really feed our children's avenues, sidewalks, etc., into the school in a much better way than we've had before on those open roads. So very happy to hear about that. The Joker's pickleball courts, they look good after the refinishing we just did on them. Out at West City Park, all the bathrooms that I entered, they looked really nice and clean. There was hand sanitizer in them, so good job with that. Over at the schools, there's a lot of work going on over there, and I'm happy to see that they've adding a retention pond above that one that's there right now, because of most likely the increased runoff that we'll be having. So I was happy to see that also. And then finally, the thing that Dave was talking about the speeders and stuff. I mean, I understand that we've been in a COVID mode, so I more than understand why that has happened. But one of the best ways that I understand for people to slow down is to have one of those mile-per-hour radar signs on the side of the road. And I've inquired about those, about that rather, numerous times. And it would be nice to see, perhaps if we could have one of those, and in those high traffic areas where there is speeding going on, to deploy that and remind people how fast they're going. I think that's a safety concern, and I think it's a valid expenditure. That's all I have, sir.
Brian, I believe you brought that up before, and I think it's a very fine idea. We can move it around to our high areas, where they're doing speed.
Yeah, Doug was supposed to get back with us on that.
Right.
Last time we brought it up.
Right. But it's been brought up numerous times by me, Kevin, so.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Cost factor was one of the things that we have to look at for one of those. I know that our sister city over there has one. I don't know how much they use it, but it would be, it would work. I can only tell you this. In Hawaii, they have those signs, but they also run them off of solar power. And of course, they got a lot of sunshine over there, but it definitely works.
I wouldn't know. I've never been to Hawaii.
Just to jump in on the conversation, something that I've been working on, that Matt and I were working on, that I've kind of hit the pause button on until we get a new public works director in place, is what they call traffic calming policy. Obviously, there's a lot of things that go into getting people to drive safely, to drive, the speed limit, to obey stop signs. But what it does is allow an avenue for residents to directly ask for an area to be studied. It allows for education, which would include things like portable radar speed signs. It also includes enforcement, which would involve the police department targeting areas over a period of time. And ultimately, it involves perhaps the use of lane narrowing, signage, hips, speed bumps. There's a variety of things that can go into that. So it's something I've been working on. If you just want to know what it's more about, please come by. I'd love to share it with you before we kind of throw it all at you. So it's coming, but we really haven't had a chance to I want to give, obviously, everybody on staff an opportunity to kind of thrash it out before we give you something close to a finished product. So, but if you have questions and want to see more about it, I'd love to share it with you. City of O'Fallon, Missouri has a very good policy related to this. I think I shared that with some of council, and some of what we've been looking at is similar to what O'Fallon currently uses. It's a good program.
I mean, that comes out of, other than general fund, couldn't they come out of the road, under the highway fund or something?
Road tax,
Yeah. There's the possibility that
I mean, if you pull a little bit out of each spot.
Sure. We were scheduled to have a meeting with county about tuning the language in the county T-tax agreement anyway.
Yeah.
Because, the way it's written, it's very specific to say it can only be used for essentially road improvements. But what about, the stormwater adjacent to it? What about the equipment you need to clean it or to plow it? So that's a conversation that was kind of, again, put on hold because of the pandemic, but one that we'll certainly get back into in coming months.
Anything else? Councilman Dennis.
Yeah, I had a question posed to me if anyone's water had a fishy smell to it. And I know mine has. Have we done anything different with the water lately?
No. Plant's been online.
What's that, Greg?
I'm sorry, there has been no changes at the plant. They've been operating as normal. We haven't been on wells for a while now. So I don't know what might be causing that, but we can certainly have someone come by, Kevin, if you like.
No. I don't do it on my behalf. This was brought to my attention. My smeller ain't what it used to be, so.
We did have a complaint that we responded to over on Dublin today. They were complaining of a sewer smell, and it turns out that there was a toilet in the household that had not been flushed properly. But our people came over to help out.
Okay. Another thing that kind of struck me as odd the other day, I seen one of our public works red trucks, and the windows were blacked out in it. And that just struck me as odd why we would have a truck with the windows blacked out in it. And that they'd be extremely dark.
Do you know which one it was?
It was just a red truck, and it had our logo on it, and but they were extremely dark, and I can't imagine us buying a truck like that. Somebody had to put that on there, and I can't imagine that being an authorized thing. They're extremely dark. So
I'll look into it.
Okay. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, it's good to have Gary.
What's that?
It's also good to have Gary back.
Yes, thank you, sir. Councilman Vance.
Tim, Chief Lewis, with like they said, with the fireworks situation, what does happen? Like, because, it's been going on. I mean, we hear it all the time, shoot the fireworks. What will happen to that person? Do you go
Usually
there?
what we do-
Do you take it, or they get arrested, or?
It depends, because I'll be honest with you, it's the hardest ordinance to enforce in the city of Festus, because everybody's doing it, everybody. But what we normally do is if we get a complaint, we warn them. And if we get a second call, we start issuing summonses, unless it's just so blatant. But usually, because we go, for the next 2 weeks, we'll be going call to call to call.
I figured that.
And when we get there, you can see the fireworks everywhere, but nobody wants to sign a complaint. Now, if we get somebody to sign a complaint, then we'll run it through the court. But usually we warn, and then if they don't get the hint, then we start writing summonses.
Do you confiscate the fireworks if you see them or not?
If we can.
Okay, I didn't know if you.
But like I said, we'll start getting calls. I'll bet between now and they stop selling them, shoot them off, we'll have,
It'll be even a week after. A
we'll
week
have
after
thousands
Fourth.
of calls.
Yeah. It's always a week after the Fourth of
Yeah,
July.
it is the toughest ordinance to enforce.
Well, like you said, it's only for Fourth of July till what, 11 o'clock at night or something like that? It's only from Fourth of July day till,
You could put a restriction on it where you could shoot all day long or not any at all.
well, I know, but I
Nobody
mean,
pays attention to it
well, but I mean, the legal part is only until 10 or 11.
until midnight. I think it's 11.
On these large, groups where they're having big shoots, are they, having it this year, or are they closed down because the crowd is getting so close together?
I don't think they're having
They're not having it?
There's not one for firecracker, but there'll be neighborhoods, entire neighborhoods will set up
Sure will.
Yeah.
firework displays. And when you get
Right.
down there, there'll be 100 people there, but nobody knows anything. It's hard you just can't arbitrarily give somebody a summons if you didn't see them do it.
The school shot when it's Friday.
Now, if the council chooses us to be more enforcement, I could do that too. But
Well, yeah, like you said, it's gonna be what it is. And
we'll do whatever you guys want to do. If you want us to be real strict about it, we can.
Well, there's a certain period of time that they are allowed to shoot. If it's only a couple hours, 2 or 3 hours, I think we can do that. I mean, I'm speaking for myself.
right, on the 4th of July, I definitely
Fourth of
have a
July.
problem.
On the holiday.
It'll start picking up here and
Yeah.
they'll shoot
Oh, yeah.
all night long. And I don't know where they get some of these fireworks.
Or
They
they're
said
selling,
they're
there's more
surplus.
tents, there's more tents on now, and they're always.
Oh, yeah.
So
And
I don't know how long they can buy all night. If they have.
They can buy all night and shoot all night.
yeah, oh boy, I know that feeling too.
Yeah.
And once again, the routine on that Horine, that's a drag strip.
No Horine, my subdivision, every subdivision in town.
I get complaints because people saying, I said, well, when an officer sits up there at the church or sits somewhere, but I
Oh,
said,
speeding?
pardon?
Or speeding?
Yeah, for the speeding part, but I mean, yeah, now I'm talking about speeding, but yeah, like I said, I tell them, I know you're there, but the sooner you leave, the next person's gonna fly. Greg, speaking of where I'm at, and that new subdivision going in, question that people keep asking me, is that gonna, or even Chief Lewis, is that gonna be a three-way with that subdivision? Is that gonna change the route along the road?
Horine's a through street there.
Right, but I mean, that subdivision, people coming out, all the traffic, people trying to come in and out of that once it ever does get fully developed, will that become a three-way? I said, I don't know.
Probably not.
I would say that it would, obviously, going back to the thing we were talking about earlier with traffic calming, that would be something that we would want to review based on, obviously, traffic count, obviously, crash incidents. There's a lot of data that would go into determining whether that should be a three-way or not.
Because that's the only entrance in and out, I heard, the only spot that's right there.
Should there already be a traffic study on file though? Because shouldn't that be, that should have been part of the plan. when we-
And I don't have the subdivision plan, obviously, I'm not familiar with the subdivision plan. So I
Let Mark
can't comment
Harrison
on that.
have it, because usually when they do a full submission, traffic study's already there. And they treat it as if the subdivision's already done.
Yeah.
One thing you take into consideration is, when you decide to put stop signs up, a lot of times what you do is you change the complaint from speeding to running stop signs.
Oh, yeah, I know.
The issue,
Safety, then. You get
safety
smoked.
issue, yeah, the stop signs.
Well, I know,
I'd rather have somebody speeding than run stop signs. People think
Well-
that you're gonna stop at a stop sign.
I don't know how that entrance or whatever, how big it's gonna be, how whatever it's gonna be. Like I said, I told him, I said, I'm sure there ain't gonna nothing happen for a while, just like you said, till it finally gets going, till we see how it looks. Because you're gonna have people that's coming from the top of the hill, that's the one that's gonna be probably speeding more. The ones that's coming from the church, that's you're gonna see no problem. But the ones that are coming down, I don't know what kind of view you're gonna have. I don't know what's gonna,
There's a
but-
dip in the road right past the stop sign on Flint or Valley, if you ever noticed.
Yeah.
You come down the hill and you can almost lose a car. and that
Right,
dip
you can
would
dip that
back
road.
up.
Okay, but like I said, that, I didn't know what the future would hold for that, and but like I said, I know it's a long way away for that to ever get developed. On Cromwell, I know that we have passed for that new, culvert or credit. Are they prepping that for the day that a sidewalk, if we ever get that road redone to do a sidewalk, is it gonna have a pre-sidewalk already in place? So if we ever do get a sidewalk on that street,
Not as part of this project, no.
I didn't know if they was already,
You're talking, based on where we're currently scoped on projects, you're 5 years out. And we didn't spec it with the culvert.
the future of a sidewalk coming in.
But absolutely, I mean, I think it's something that we can't look at it now. And to be honest with you, Bobby, I don't think anyone thought of it at the time.
It was probably Bill did, because the way Bill kept saying, Bill Gray, when he was here, the way he kept saying that needs to be a sidewalk.
The idea was to connect the West Main phases
Right.
to Collins and then connect that phase to Third, Fifth, and obviously the Orion project. So, we're obviously, all the way out past 2024 right now on projects, so, I wasn't taken into consideration at the time that we priced that culvert, no.
I mean, I know it's gonna be a while before Cromwell ever gets redone or have that sidewalk. But I figured since we were in Third Street, Fifth Street, I just figured that would be thought of just because of the future of that street eventually gonna have a sidewalk.
Sure.
And that'd be one of the last ones really to have a sidewalk.
Yeah.
To hook up.
Cromwell's a tough one because you're up against obviously MoDOT right away.
Right.
And that may or may not, and you're pretty tight on the other side. That may or may not impact what side it goes on.
Well, it's not too tight. Somebody went through the fence, didn't know how to stop, so. Saw they made it wider. But, okay, yeah, that was things that I was kind of curious.
Sure.
But other than that, sir, that's, I think I'm caught up a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, if I could just jump in real quick for a second, sir.
Sure.
Going back to Kevin Dennis's question, apparently we at least have one viewer on our YouTube channel. That is Jim Tyndall, who obviously does all of our, is our maintenance tech and goes by and takes all our water samples. No changes to water recently, chlorine residuals stayed consistent, no wells for several months. So it may be.
It came from the subdivision out past West City Park there.
Okay.
That was the person that asked me, and I said I'd ask.
Okay.
So yeah, don't go by me. I'm pretty well going by, what they ask. So I know sometimes we switch around, but without having a director over there, there's no one to ask your questions to. So but thanks, Jim.
Anything else, Bobby?
No, sir, thank you.
Councilman Tennant?
I have nothing, sir.
Well, I guess it's my turn.
Councilman Cook.
Councilman Cook.
I'm sorry, you forget about me.
Councilman Cook.
Trying hard.
Boy, that was Brian.
And I have it written on here too.
Just a couple of quick ones. One time, a couple of questions. Basketball court looks great. I don't know if you might have seen it.
It's been sealed, it's not been finished.
That's my next question.
Okay.
It looks good though. I mean, it looks pretty good. Thank you so much for doing that. Greg, I appreciate it. I've been texting you quite a bit. You said bring it on and you've been responding. I greatly appreciate it. If you're comfortable, I'll continue to do that. And any concerns that I brought to the house, forward straight to you. Chief, fireworks, I don't want to have a great discussion. What if we change the days they're available for sale? And the only reason I'm bringing it up is I'm not sticking the mud on the fireworks, but man, when they're shooting stuff off, they're shaking houses. I think we got to do something.
Yeah, it's
I don't know if we need a
out of
ban.
control.
If there's certain things we just got to put a limit on and start using common sense. I feel bad for people that, in our subdivision. Maybe Greg, kick it around. See what other
I think
cities
the
do.
issue we have is if we close down every fireworks stand in Festus.
They'll go somewhere else to get it.
Somewhere else.
So, and I mean, a part of the equation, it's not a substantial part of the equation, but is, there's a decent amount of revenue generated from those stands while they're open. And I know I'm not saying it's a dollar and cents question, I'm saying that it is part of the equation.
I mean, the other day, I literally came out of my house, and I really thought a house blew up. I'm not kidding. And there were like 7 neighbors out there.
Oh, yeah.
So all we would be doing is pushing all that business, to Bristol or County, as a result.
We could take a stronger, stricter approach to sign everybody can see.
You know, I hate to say this, but I'm almost not opposed to it. I mean, I don't know if there's something to discuss before we do it. I don't know, I just,
I'll tell you, I sat out the Elks for a watched the fireworks display.
Yeah.
I looked over the fence over the city of Festus, I turned my chair around. It was a better display going on. I'm not kidding.
no, I agree with you. I think the most
people
complaints
on
are
our
against
commission have a
fireworks.
party.
I mean, I'm not one to say, okay, let's start the ticket writing process, but I don't know if we need to just drop the hammer for a little bit. I don't know, something to think about.
Well,
And then,
The only thing I can say on that, Mike, is for 4th of July, good. All the other time, that's when it needs to be the hammer
Yeah,
drop.
4th of July, we wouldn't do anything.
Right.
yeah, no, I mean, I think we do a great job community policing. I mean, I don't hear any issues with the police.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of them. So I hate all of a sudden to draw a line and say, here you go, start writing now. I think we all are, and I'm not just, I think we're very proud of our police.
Yes.
Last question for you, Greg. I came in and I got a few phone calls, not a lot, and we discussed it. Can you discuss the concern again I brought to you about the whole water plant situation? If you would, please.
You're talking about the agreement with JCW?
Yes, yes. I know as a council, we can only say, hey, look, we have a question. Can you answer it for us?
Sure.
It's an own separate entity, correct?
Correct.
And that separate entity votes and does what that entity chooses to do.
It's
correct?
essentially a quasi-governmental agency.
Okay. Would you please be so kind
And I'm happy to share my thoughts. You know, I am obviously a representative, along with my counterpart Murky, obviously our public works director are both on there, and Gary and Terry Thomas. We were approached in February by Crystal about the prospect of them buying water from JCWA in the event of an emergency. It was something that the board thought, obviously considered, and at the end of the day, what it boiled down to was this. Two factors actually. One is if there is surplus water, and only if there is surplus water, and only if there is an emergency in Crystal City, will JCWA be able to sell water to them. They provide all of the connections. The water systems are across the street from each other. The elevations that come into play between JCWA and Crystal are much more advantageous for both systems than it is for Herky or Festus to try to provide water to either. And because the debt that financed the construction of the plant is solely JCWA's, any additional income pays that debt down faster. Right now, JCWA has two customers, Festus and Herky. We pay for our contracted amount, Herky pays for their contracted. And if there's excess water and if there's an emergency, that extra water can be sold, which is just additional income for the water authority that goes directly towards the debt or offsets the cost of operations.
May I ask a follow-up question? Is it possible, one of the concerns for me, and I understand it, is why does Crystal have the ability to pay the same rate as Festus and Hercules when the two
Right.
plant?
You would run into obviously a challenge with Public Service Commission. I've been down that road before. If anyone knows my history, knows that the city of Deloge fought the city of Park Hills over water rates, okay, for the better part of, probably the better part of 10 years, okay. The PSC obviously is involved when there's a rate inequity, whether it's a wholesale rate or whether it's a consumer rate. So that would be obviously a huge stumbling block, and I don't think anybody wants to, put the water authority or either city at risk from a legal entanglement. And at the same time, if there's truly an emergency in Crystal, I think everyone would be in agreement that we should do what we can to help our neighbor. I know there's some bad blood, okay? but at some point, you gotta bury the hatchet and say that if there's truly an emergency in Crystal City and there's surplus water at the water plant, then why not sell it to them? And I think that was my reasoning, and I feel it was probably the reasoning of everybody else that voted unanimously that day by the Water Authority.
Yeah, I didn't want to close it out until everybody had a chance, because then I was going to ask 2 additional questions that other people.
I just got a question about the same thing.
Go ahead.
So Greg, 2 questions. So why didn't Crystal go to the Water Authority years ago when they were fighting us over the water?
I don't know why.
I mean, that to me, and then the other question, then I might go back to the other one, is who is carrying the note on the treatment plant?
Water
That's
Authority.
the Water Authority.
It's their debt.
And why have we, over the years, and some of the councilmen that's been on the board for a long time, you guys, do you remember the times that we were discussing how we would be upside down and water rates, everybody was complaining, and we came across.
I remember.
It came across that we had something to do with that.
If the Water Authority were to default, then that is a possibility, that the cities of Festus and Herculaneum, as essentially the 2 participating members of the Water Authority.
But we're in agreement that you must co-sign for that loan.
That's a simple way of putting it. Absolutely.
I just, Greg and I talked a little bit about it too. And, I asked Greg to, maybe educate all of us about water treatment plant, because I don't know a whole lot about it.
You guys really, who here has been to the plant?
A long time ago.
Yeah, I think we could, I know Jamie Abishad, the plant manager, would love to have you up there. We could perhaps do it in smaller groups that would allow you to see the facility. The clerk cone, of course, is an impressive structure, and know, how our water is influenced by the Mississippi and the moods that she's in, and the need to build, because that's something we've been working on at the Water Authority, is the need to build additional capacity for storage. We're getting ready to put out an RFQ for engineering, design build firms to submit their qualifications to build additional capacity. Because where the Water Authority is at, it's a good problem to have. While demand has decreased in Herculaneum, the obviously growth of the city of Festus has created a higher demand on our side. So being able to not just meet current demand, but to be able to meet demand in the future, and to finally do away with Festus having to turn on their wells, Herky having to turn on their wells. We all know what happens when we turn on our wells. 3 or 4 days, we can handle it. After that point, and it's not a quantity issue, it's a turbidity issue where the water begins to affect the pipes, and that's when the quality, you start to get the murkiness, maybe you get some taste. So to be able to get to that point where we can say, we'll never have to turn on a well in the city of Festus ever again, I think it's a good thing.
I don't think that's ever going to.
Hey, Greg, in the past, the question was always why would we sell water wholesale to another city when Festus has extremely higher water bills? They're paying for the plant, and way back when, I don't know how close we are to getting it paid off, but that was always the reason in the past that we weren't for selling it wholesale. That we're all about helping everyone, but people of Festus and Herky have paid for the plant through their water bills, which are high, because we get one from Crystal, and my wife gets one from Crystal for her mom's house, and we get one from Festus. So that was always the question in the past. I'm all about helping anyone, but it's tough to tell our people why their water bill's so high when we're wholesaling water somewhere else. That was always the big controversy.
Big problem right there. We always had it. Every one of our conversations was, why are we charging our people higher?
Right.
Less than what we were actually selling for.
Well, and I think that's in part why the discussion goes directly to Crystal and the Water Authority, as opposed to Crystal and Festus and Crystal and Herky. Because they are the water supplier for the two closest communities, because there is already an existing rate, because the terms and conditions of the agreement are very explicit, that the water authority can deny service, that the precedent is that Festus and Herky get their water first, and only in the event of an emergency. This isn't an operational, day-to-day, wash the dishes and water your lawn situation. This is only if there's surplus water that can be sold essentially at a profit, because it's water that wouldn't be able to be sold otherwise, because there's only two customers. And we're already buying the water that we need.
So we're not wholesaling it?
The city of Festus is not wholesaling water, no.
The water authority is?
Authority is. They're selling the water in the event of an emergency at their wholesale rate that they sell to the other two communities.
Well, when this passed many years ago, it was under the impression that everybody had a chance to get in it. In fact, this Herky's the only one that did it. So how did the water authority decide to make their decision now they can sell it to who they want to, when, like everybody else says, Festus and Herky are paying for it?
They're all separate.
I mean, it's not that you don't sell water, like you said, there's no way I'd let anybody go without water. But they should pay the regular price, anybody should pay the regular price just because we have to pay the regular price.
They are.
They're paying the same price we're paying.
Correct.
No, I mean, price of the $13, whatever it is, or something, that's what Crystal would be paying, or?
No, because they're not buying it from us. They're buying it from the water authority. And the water authority has a set rate, that, again, if you have a set rate, to sell it at a different rate, obviously can get you.
But how did they come to that power whenever they said Festus, or when everybody had a chance to vote on this? How did they get to that luxury saying, now we can sell it to who we want at our expense?
I don't see it at our expense.
There was an election
Right,
years ago.
right.
Crystal, Festus, Herky, and Peebly that went to the voters, should we have a Jefferson County Water Authority?
Right.
The only two cities that approved it was Festus and Herculaneum.
Right.
I lived over in Crystal and was on the council at the time, I think. I'm not sure. I could just about name all the people that made sure that Crystal voted no, because they had their own water plant and they didn't want any part of the Jefferson County Water Authority. So what happened was there was only two cities that agreed to have it. It was formed, and they are, as Greg has said, a separate entity. And they make their own decisions, just like the sewer treatment plant. They're their own entity.
Well, yeah, I know, but.
And that's just the way it is. They make the decision for the Jefferson County Water Authority.
That's the first time I've ever heard it represented that way. We send representatives to that commission to make decisions on our behalf. So I've never heard it as a standalone entity where we have no say in it.
It is.
All my years on the council, we send people there. So in turn, we are part of that. And we can get the consensus of our council and go back for our representation. Am I not correct?
The Water Authority, the Tourism Commission, the Levy Commission, the Sewer Commission are essentially standalone entities. They have their own budgets, they have their own capital and operational expense, and the connection between the cities is that the mayor and council appoint representatives to those various commissions. Obviously, at the water plant, they're serving two cities. At the levy commission, they're serving 2 different cities. At the sewer treatment plant, they're serving those same 2 cities in a different capacity. But those boards, those commissions, work to that end to serve that organization and the cities they represent, certainly. What was presented was a emergency situation where surplus water, and only if there is surplus water, could be sold by the water authority to Crystal. Otherwise, the water goes to waste. And the water authority,
we've been in that situation in the past where we've actually had to sell them water, and it was a huge controversy because at one time, remember, we were looking at possibly selling the water authority to the one out of St. Louis. So that's just the first time I've ever heard it explained that way. That we're just kind of part of something that we paid for, you know, and our people pay for it with their bills, which are high.
Greg, what if we do this? What if, because I didn't mean to bring this up, I just want a quick explanation. Do you guys want to talk about it in the next council meeting, have it on an agenda item where we can ask questions and better dive into
we've
this?
got it open, let's thrash it out now.
Well, my thing is, okay, so the Jefferson County Water Authority then said they can sell the water, okay? So it sounds like they have the authority to sell the water. But Festus and Herky paid for all the pipes and all the stuff to get it to go somewhere. So why can't Festus then say, if you're gonna sell it $1, you use our pipe to get it to you?
It doesn't go through any of the Festus pipes.
Well, how would it get?
They're connecting to the transmission line prior to it reaching the Herky or Festus vaults.
Well, then how
There's a
Crystal-
vault there right across the street from where you were.
Right.
Okay. There's another one just up the road. That is the point where the JCWA connects the Festus system and the Herculaneum system.
Right, but how would Crystal get it?
They're going up there on Crystal Heights Road, where their system is essentially directly across the street from the JCWA transmission line. They are going to put in a vault and a valve and a meter for the purpose of connecting to the line at their expense.
Oh, so they want to hook up, okay, now I see what you're saying.
Well, my concern was, it looked like to me, and Greg explained it, they were bypassing us.
Absolutely.
They were bypassing us because they didn't want another $110,000 bill, and that was my concern.
Yeah, what happened, they had a fire that went, and we tried to recollect the money back from Crystal City. And that's where they had problems. Getting that money back, and now I think they still have problems with it.
But he brought up a point though that I never thought about, and that was a public service.
Public Service Commission.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that, so that's why I'm.
Rate inequity is obviously something, typically when you hear the PSC, it's kicked around in relation to, say, Ameren or Laclede or Spire. I know directly from my experience, having built a water system from the ground up, but had to do that because we were competing with a neighboring city that was doubling and tripling our rates, okay? That's a PSC issue, okay?
Could we get in trouble for having out of water rates that we sell to residents? Could we get in trouble for that?
No, because we charge consistently. Our rates are consistent. Our residential and commercial rates are consistent. We don't charge one business more than another. It's when you have a rate inequity. So if you have a published rate, okay, and let's say it's $10.
I'm with you.
But I say to you, Mike, I'm gonna sell water to you for 10, but Dave, you gotta pay 12.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So let me ask you a question.
That's an issue.
Could the board set a non-member rate? Is that a possibility? Like Festus and Herky, you're a member, and a non-member rate from XYZ here on would be this?
It's an area that's just fraught with the possibility of legal challenge. And again, I can't stress it enough. We're talking about 2 very specific scenarios that have to be met in order for this to take place. 1, there has to be excess water. 2, there has to be an emergency, a mutually agreed upon emergency. Crystal can't just say, hey, it's an emergency, we need water, we're turning on the valve. Doesn't work that way, okay? If you read the agreement, and it's a good agreement, it's a simple agreement, but it's a good agreement, that basically states that If we agree there's an emergency, and if we have surplus water, JCWA will provide water to the city of Crystal at the wholesale rate.
Greg, I want to bring something up. So it's been a few years ago that we had a meeting right here in this room about Crystal City when before they built a new plant. They basically sit right here and came to us and asked us what we could do to help them. And at that point, we were trying to get them to join the water treatment plant. And they basically told us to pound sand, we're gonna build our own plant. So why weren't they talking to us to begin with? Why weren't they talking to?
You'd have to ask them.
And in the meantime, all the citizens have paid for that plant, because we have exorbitant water bills, and everybody else was cheaper. It's not till Crystal City got their treatment plant going that their water rates caught up with ours. And so now, I mean, just me standing here, or sitting here as a citizen or a councilman, it's almost like Mike said, it's just like they just bypass us.
Well, no, it would be bypassing Festus and Herky if they were gonna be a customer.
Then why would we sell them water to begin with?
I can't speak to that, I wasn't here.
That's what.
Maybe they can open 9th Street.
Yeah, there you go.
And I don't wanna go down the rabbit hole, okay? But let me just say this, that the ability to sell surplus water to a third party only decreases the debt that the water authority carries.
But we've already paid the majority of the debt off.
Then that'll be paid off faster. If there's an emergency. And
Greg,
if
I'm
there's
not
surplus
beating you
water.
up. I'm just saying, I've sit in some of those meetings, and we sit there and try to come up with ideas on how to solve their water problems. And all of the guys that's been here for a long time, I mean, oh my gosh, it was a nightmare trying to come up with a price of what to charge them. And then, like Gary said, we had a $200,000 bill out there, and I don't know if we ever got paid for it. You know, it's not ever right. It's every time we have we try to work with somebody in a honorably way, it just
We
blows up their
followed,
face.
you remember, we followed our out-of-district policy. We charged 10% more, if you remember that.
Yeah.
Right, so I remember that.
But it was still cheaper, than what our citizens were paying.
Yes.
And now, I mean, has it been in the paper yet?
The meeting was in February. The contract was approved in March. I don't know if it was in the paper or not.
I just can't imagine anybody being very happy about it when they hear it. So this has been an ongoing thing.
Are they hurting for water? Why they want to do this?
No,
Or just thinking of the
it's
future?
in the event of an emergency.
Right.
I can't stress it enough, that if there is surplus water manufactured by the plant that neither Festus or Herky can use, if there's emergency in Crystal, the plant can sell the water to them at that rate.
That's what they have had a fire of some sort in
Correct,
Crystal City.
What if, let's say the hospital's on fire, okay? Or that's a bad example, but let's just say downtown, Old Town Crystal City's on fire, okay? Mississippi Street's on fire. And there's surplus water available to plant. Why wouldn't you provide water to them?
Why would they do it?
I don't think that's the question. I think the question is we paid and we did all the paying for it, and now we'll take it wholesale if you got it. I mean, we're going to help anybody anywhere, but it's got to go two ways, because our people, you know, I've been on a long time. So is Bobby. This is the first time I've ever heard it explained this way. We always had a say in it, and you know, we weren't going to sell it cheaper than what our citizens could get it for. That we didn't feel that was fair. So that's my only thing. It's just the first time I've heard it laid out this way. You know, in all my
The city of Peabody could come to us, do the same thing.
They don't have the ability to directly connect with water.
Well, I mean, they would put a line.
If they ran a transmission line, that's certainly an option. But at the same time, it's whether or not the water authority has the ability to serve even in the event of an emergency. You know, obviously, you know, you have some engineers involved, and they're able to make some calculations based on the water that the plant produces, and whether or not there's surplus capacity to begin with, because then it's a non-starter. And when you talk about what it would take to be able to serve another community on top of that, I think you've got to have that discussion again.
Well, what if they just wanted to join? Well, like say all of a sudden now, hey, we sorry we didn't do
And
this.
it never came up.
Well, but I mean, if they would, could they still a flat fee, say we pay you so many millions and we could join?
I don't see how that would be possible.
Well, I just.
I think as Jim Lewis can allude to, certainly in discussions we've had with other organizations, okay, that we didn't buy in on at the very beginning, they're wanting us to pay a premium to be able to get in to their system. And I'm not going to talk in specifics because I'll be fair to them. But I think you would certainly have an instance where you would want them to pay a premium to buy into the system. That's not what we're talking about here. That's not what we're talking about.
So strictly emergency only.
Emergency and only if there's surplus water. Only if there's surplus water.
I'd like to say
The word
something.
that stands out more than anything else, and I brought
Well,
it.
we got duped again.
I just,
I'd like to say something.
go ahead.
So I don't think it's unusual. I think we're looking at this emotionally, and I understand why everybody is looking at it emotionally, but I don't think that it's unusual for a city to have a wholesale water rate. And you have retail water rates, you have wholesale water rates. I understand the emotion that is behind this thing, and it seems like there's a lot of I don't know how else to say it other than emotion that is being captured by everyone on the council here. Maybe rather than having council representatives on there, maybe there could be somebody else, like how we have a park board. Maybe we could have like a water board, something along that line that could represent us and make a more perhaps objective decision than what we've got going on right now. I don't think it's unusual at all for a city to have a wholesale water rate, a retail water rate. And if we're trying to pay down debt, I mean, there's an old expression, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered, and I think that if we go after that retail rate, I think personally it's being a little hoggish. That's what I have to say. That's the way I felt about it for a long time, and I think maybe we should consider some outside sources to help us with this rather than trying to do this ourselves.
Brian, I'm not very emotional about it. I'm just saying I've never heard this before. It's been beaten in my head for all these years that it's a certain way. And I told Greg today, as far as I knew, I thought the city of Festus was responsible for the bill on the water treatment plant. And, maybe I'm unaware of a lot of events that's happened, but I know there's a lot of guys in this room that is sitting here for hours talking about the same thing with the water. And it has nothing to do with, I don't want anybody to go without water, but I don't like the rules to change, and I hear about it from somebody else. That's my problem.
Right.
And I'm not beating up Greg. I just want to hear, Greg wasn't here on a lot of these discussions, so you're probably being blindsided a little bit here too. But if there's certain rules and regulations you follow when you do all this hooking up and stuff, that's just not the way it's been for years. I mean, if they could have hooked directly to their hookup place all these years, why are they over here trying to buy water from us? Why didn't they negotiate a deal with the water authority? That's my whole issue.
I can't speak to that.
No, I
Jim, this is the first time I have heard that the PSC can regulate wholesale and retail water rates.
Me too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But guys,
Wait till something goes wrong with the water, and in the past, like I said, we filled this room with all kinds of issues. We got a history on why they got a water authority, because the water table had dropped, and everybody's afraid there wasn't going to be water. I'm not for denying anybody water. This is all news to me. I thought I understood. how to work, but maybe I was wrong.
Yeah, that's where I'm at together. And, you know, they can't even supply us water 100% of the time. And so how do you decide what's surplus and what's not surplus?
What's an emergency?
When we were supplying Crystal City water, we ran out of water. And turned all the wells on.
Yep. Which causes us issues.
So Greg, I think with me, it's not that I'm pissed off or anything like that. It's just, this is just all totally different story than I've been pounded in my head for all these years. And I thought I kind of understood, but evidently I didn't. Okay.
What if we have an update in the agenda from our separate separate entities that all have representation from different council members? Think that might help?
Something,
If you have a question, you know, I think the easiest and best way for any of these groups, you know, JCWA is obviously on the city's website. If you want to know about debt service and what series bonds are making what payments to and what the capital outlay is on the plant and things that are going on, just pull the budget up. They go all the way back to practically 2001, probably 2003 on the city's website.
What about operational, like rules, like agreements are being changed? And I'm not saying changed like, you know, deceitful. I just mean like we're getting ready to make an agreement with Crystal. Should that be something that both council cities should be made aware of? Well, leave them out, us. How can, like Kevin and all of us?
Yeah.
What
I
can we
think
do?
you're stepping into that arena that we've talked about before, and Brian Malone can certainly speak to this, is that these commissions and boards are established for the purpose of running these facilities.
But we appoint council members, so how do we know?
We don't necessarily appoint council members.
Excuse me, we appoint the board. He makes a recommendation, he being the mayor, and we vote on it. We vote.
And that's about the only connection we
So
have.
how do we know if I'm just one vote, how do I know I'm vetting the right candidate that shares the interests of the city from here on out? I'm just trying to, communication's the key here. I just want to.
We used to get a report
That's
from
what I'm saying.
one of the councilmen served on there.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to explain. Couldn't we just get a report from like the sewer commission, the water authority, the levy? Just, hey, this is our report, here's what's going on, and we just put it in our packet.
A lot of that information is already out there, gentlemen, and it can be obviously packaged for your consumption, but it's information that's, if we're going to stay specific to JCWA, the agendas, the minutes are all there for you to look at. If you have questions, the information is there. Now, if it needs to be handed to you in a packet so that it can be consumed on a monthly basis, we can do that as well. But you're
like, you educated me and blew me away. I was like, whoa, we gotta like kind of let the rest of the council know. You mentioned things that this little brain never even thought of. Right? So I thought, we better.
Well, I think we're all stunned because none of us knew this.
I heard it. I got told about it at the grocery store.
Yeah.
We had pretty well taken a stance all these years, and it was being changed.
Let me say this, and we dance around it all night, okay? There's a lot of disinformation out there, okay? There is one particular source in particular, okay, that seeks to disrupt normal operations for this community on a regular basis, okay? It's not fair to you. It's not fair to anybody in this room. It's not fair to any of our employees. And to take any of that at face value is just wrong. It's just wrong, okay? We clearly know, okay, that the information that is being put out there is false, okay? It's the latest in a long line of false information that has been spewed all over this town. And we need to stop doing that, okay? We are doing way too many good things in this town, okay? Did you know that business revenue in this city in the last 3 years has gone up 10%? That's a good thing. We see the growth. We see the growth. You see it every day, okay? You see the housing starts around town. You see people moving into our community from out of St. Louis because this is a safe place to live. And we don't need to be distracted. Keep your eye on the ball. We don't need to be distracted by half-truths and lies. It's not fair.
So,
So I think that's why we're asking you.
That's my rant, okay, related to what I believe is the impetus behind all this conversation tonight, and that's fine, because there's nothing to hide, okay? The actions were clear, they were direct, they protected the city's interests, they protected Herculaneum's interests, and at the same time, it gives us the rare opportunity to perhaps help a neighbor in the event of a dire emergency. I don't understand what's wrong with that.
well, Greg, we offered to help them.
I can't speak to that, Jim. All I can speak to is this.
I know, but the guys in here, yeah, I'm speaking for myself.
I understand.
I think we're on the same page. We had meetings and meetings, and it was like, oh my gosh, what can we do to help? And they just flat turned us down and said, screw you guys. We
Right.
got a water source on the Mississippi. We're gonna drill a well. We got it taken care of. And I'm not badgering Crystal City. I'm just telling you, I'm at a meeting and this is what I learned because I go by common sense theory myself. And it was common sense that, you know what, there was 4 cities that was gonna go in on this well or this treatment plant to begin with. 2 bailed on us. The city of Festus got basically like we got stuck with a large bill, and I mean, I don't know about you guys, but we had a projector going on this wall right here, talking about millions of dollars, how we're gonna figure out how to pay them. And my God, it would be like we're taking the money out of our pocket. That's what it felt like to me. It didn't feel like the water authority paying for jack. And so here we are now, and the information you're talking about, Greg, I totally agree with you. But all it did was open my eyes because the story has totally changed from what has been pounded in my head for all these years. And it's like,
Yeah, right.
If a citizen would come up to me and say, how much do we owe on the water treatment plant? At one time I could have told you because I heard it so often. It was in our packet all the time.
So that's my question though, because I came in and met with Greg. I know that not everybody had that opportunity and explained very well. So like Kevin was caught off guard. I was totally blown away when I left that meeting. Totally. I learned so much. So how do we continue this moving forward where we don't talk about this for an hour and a half on a councilman's report? What does the council want? Do we want monthly reports in there? I know it's on the website, let's be honest. If we're not spoon-fed.
I guess we just need to be better educated.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah, it sounds like we need to be reschooled on it all.
I'll be the first to tell you, yes, it's out there, and unfortunately, I guess sometimes I gotta be spoon-fed like a kid. Is that what the council wants? I mean,
If the council wants the minutes and agendas from
don't get me wrong, you are.
JCWA,
I mean, you're very prideful in your work, and I appreciate that so much. Don't think you were waiting. I think you made a good point. I'm just trying to say, there are several of us that had, how the whole operation works. I mean, I was deer in the headlights. And actually, shame on me.
the debt is JCWA's. Now, the debt is paid down by user fees. Okay? That's how the debt is paid. You pay your water bill, you're helping pay down that debt. But what, I guess an additional revenue source that pays it down faster is advantageous to the residents of Festus and Herculaneum who paid for it in the first place.
I guess
The sooner the debt goes away, the sooner there can be discussion about lowering the rates if you want to do that.
I thought it was almost paid off. I thought it was only a 20 or 25
There's I believe another year and a half.
Another year and a half and the whole thing will be paid off.
Well, that's great news.
Yeah.
Last time I looked into it was 15.
I want to say one more thing and then I'll tell about it.
Yeah, I got two more questions.
I'm going to say that, and I think everybody in this room will agree with what I'm going to say here, is the council is only as good as the information we have. And unfortunately, this whole thing that I learned about the water treatment plant has nothing to do with what I've learned. And so I think moving forward, I'd like to know regardless if it's about the water treatment plant, if it's about something very important or halfway important in the city, I'd like to know about it. Because I feel like I'm the last guy to know about it, and I have to make a decision when I come here on a council meeting, and half the time I don't even know about it. And this is a good example of this water. It happened in February, and anybody in here know about it?
No.
I didn't. So that's what
Well, let me say this to that.
Let
Let me say this to that though, Jim, okay? The one person that is spreading the half-truths, lies, and rumors about this was at that meeting in February and should know better, but they don't.
I didn't even know about it.
Okay.
That's all I'm getting at, Greg. It's, you know, I'm glad you brought the subject because it's over, and I'm like Mike, talking to you today. Everything I learned was wrong, so.
Guys, I'll be honest, if I'd been here 10 years ago, you know, I think this would be a completely different conversation, and the level of understanding. I'm doing everything I can to try to feed you, and Mike and I had this conversation, okay? Here's what you need to know is that I told you this on the phone today, Jim. I'm not gonna give you half-truths, lies, and innuendo. I can't give you rumors. I know sometimes you wanna be the first to know, okay? I know all the time you wanna be the first to know, but I don't wanna feed you bad intel. I don't wanna give you bad information. So if any time you have a question, okay, whether it's from a resident or it's something that just popped into your head, okay, the door is always open and you can come in. The phone is on for you guys, okay, to call me or text me. Shoot me an email, all right? I will give you factual information to the best of my ability, okay? And I think every single employee in this city will do that, okay? We're blessed with a bunch of straight shooters that are gonna tell you exactly how it is, okay? So I wish I could say that, you know, I could explain the actions of people in the past and why they said what they said and when they said it. I can't. I can speak to you from May 15th of 2017. Every day since then, I can tell you exactly what we've done and why we've done it. I can tell you that.
Well, you know my joke. I've always said for the last 5.5 years, we have to play that football game again. Actually, Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna change my mind. I have nothing else, sir.
Okay.
I think I broke the record for
Hey, Greg, you are our go-to guy, so if we're a little rough on you, it wasn't meant to be. You are where the buck stops.
I appreciate that, Kevin. Thank you.
Okay, now is it my turn?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Hey, sorry about that, Mike.
Oh, I was bold.
Good question from Councilman Mike tonight, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, we did learn something, though.
Well,
slash.
you know,
So it takes time.
yeah, it just takes time. All I'd like to comment on is, you know, I'm happy that everybody got back to a normal work schedule. The employees still have to be safe, still have to be diligent in their efforts to stay healthy. I don't know if you saw the news tonight before you came, but the number of cases is beginning to rise, and
Because of more testing.
you know, yeah, we're testing more, but by the same token, we still have to be healthy. If you don't feel good, don't come to work, call your supervisor and go see a doctor. As basic as that. The other thing that I'd like to get us to look at, again, we've talked about a little bit, is the councilman code of conduct. I know we haven't had a work session because of COVID-19, and I don't want to have because of it once we get through this, but we need to look at that and get that taken care of. And the other thing, Chief, I received a call from South 4th Street on the fireworks.
Yeah.
Says that she knows, you guys know her voice. That's how much she calls about it. But anyway, yeah, it's getting to be that time. So,
She'll be getting the calls when we start enforcing it.
okay. Does anybody else have anything?
No.
The only other thing, so Greg, you're saying July 20th is when you want to have your first Monday? Is what you said that?
We'll have the ordinance, for you at our next meeting, which I don't have it in front of me. I think it's July 8th.
Yes, it
It'd be
is.
July 8th, yeah.
So then what would be the fourth Monday of the month, if we pass the ordinance at our next meeting, then the fourth Monday instead of the fourth Wednesday would be our next meeting, and it would be at 6 PM.
Oh, fourth Monday.
Fourth Monday.
Oh, fourth, that'd be 27th then, okay.
Fourth Monday.
Take your shoes off, move your toes.
Well, I got the calendar, that's why I wanted to double check.
Okay.
Just so I could, you know, everybody could, see.
Okay.
All right, so we're, okay.
I'll entertain a motion. So moved. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.